Do you want to see childhood vaccines eliminated?
If they're dangerous for the children. Look.
So possibly?
When you look at some of the problems, when you look at what's going on with disease and sickness in our country, something's wrong.
Are you talking about autism?
Well, if you take a look at autism, you go back 25 years, autism was almost non-existent. It was, 1 out of 100,000. And now it's close to 1 out of 100.
Well,
I mean, what's happening? If they can find it.
Okay, so that is Donald Trump getting literally every number that he cited there absolutely wrong. Nobody's surprised by that. He doesn't care. We don't really care. But more importantly, it's the reason he's talking about it at all is he's buying into the vaccine autism nonsense. And does Donald Trump actually believe there's some sort of link? Who the hell knows? Do you think he needs to actually believe misinformation to make terrible changes that could be really harmful to your kids? No, he's perfectly willing to just lie about it if that's what it takes to get support. But before we jump into more of what he has to say about all this, and it's a muddled mix like everything coming out of Donald Trump's brain is, I just want to talk about something like those numbers. Again, he got them wrong, but the actual diagnoses have risen from about one in 150 kids back in 2000 to 1 in 36 today. Although researchers, the people who actually study this, not doddering old fools opining on things they don't understand, have pointed to increased screening and changing definitions of the condition as the basis for that rise. And I don't know if I've ever said this on the show before, but I find it fascinating that the people who want to talk about a link between vaccines and autism, that this is the particular fact they cite to justify it, is that more people have autism today than used to, when all it actually is that more people are diagnosed with autism than used to. And the reason I find that so fascinating is they're implicitly saying that the only way you'd have it is if a scientist diagnosed it. They're implicitly saying we should trust the scientists. They've always gotten it right before. They never would have missed someone in the past. They're perfect and infallible. And that is something that these people do not believe in any other area of the scientific method, scientists or doctors. But in this case, to spread disinformation, they're imagining that the doctors must have always gotten it just as right as they're getting today. They don't question how the diagnosis worked before. They don't question how the diagnosis is happening today. They just use it opportunistically to push fear-mongering around vaccines. Now, before we get into our discussion, I want to give you just a little bit more of what Donald Trump has to say about this because it could prove consequential. Take a look.
He's not going to upset any system. He's not going to upset this. He's not looking to, to reinvent the wheel totally. But when you look at the numbers, we really don't have a very healthy country.
Well, sir, going back 25 years, studies show that there is no link between vaccines and autism. And yet it sounds like you are open to the possibility of him looking
I'm
at
open to
getting
anything.
rid of them?
I think somebody has to find out. If you go back 25 years ago, you had very little autism. Now you have it. I mean,
well, they say because they're better at identifying it.
1 in 100,000, and now it's 1 in 100. That's a pretty bad number.
Childhood vaccines.
I mean, something is going on. I don't know if it's vaccines. Maybe it's chlorine in the water, right? People are looking at a lot of different things.
Well, childhood vaccines.
I want them to look at everything.
Everything. So childhood vaccines have prevented about 4 million deaths around the world every year.
I think that's great.
Isn't that?
I'm all for it. I think it's great. Hey, look, I'm not against vaccines. The polio vaccine is the greatest thing. If somebody told me get rid of the polio vaccine, they're going to have to work real hard to convince me.
He means fluoride. He doesn't even.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know what he's talking. He doesn't even know what the conspiracy theory he's supposed to pretend to believe is. The chlorine, the fluoride, the bazabine, I don't know, whatever. There's something in the water. It's turning the frogs gay. That's what you idiots believe. You peasants believe that, right? Yeah, like me, I believe the same stupid crap that you believe. He doesn't know any of this. He doesn't believe any of this. Does he actually think there's a link? Who the hell knows? He just thinks, hey, I'll put in charge the guy who's proven he has no ability over the course of literally decades to understand the science. I'm going to specifically select a person who does not know how to read a study, doesn't know how to establish whether something is trustworthy or not. That's who he's going to put in charge. And I don't really care, if it turns out that some of the vaccines go away and a whole bunch of kids die, what the hell? My kids aren't going to die. Barron's got all of his vaccines. Again, it is this faux populism of the lower classes, I think they believe this stupid BS. I'll give them that. Whatever. Us rich people are going to be medicated. We're going to be fine, and it makes me sick. Ida, what do you think?
So these are the times that I start to think that we hyper focus on Donald Trump and don't really focus enough on all of the evil people who surround him with, because, he is a symptom of a greater issue in this country, not just we keep, a lot of people are like, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is surrounded by a lot of sycophants and a lot of people who are also have a vested interest in him being there because they do believe they can manipulate him with wrong information and get what they want out of it. When I think about this, I laugh. I just wrote an article about this that's going to be for Pop Sugar because I was diagnosed with ADHD during the pandemic. And I've always known there was something different, that I had a neurodivergent brain, but I had never been diagnosed with it. So, and I can point at all my friends in the classroom that were struggling with the same things, but we just were not being diagnosed. One, we didn't have the money to go to a therapist, a psychiatrist, to take the test and to do all that stuff. That doesn't mean that I didn't have ADHD. It just means that I had to live my life working through it and surviving because I didn't know that was a thing. I just, whatever. But when you think about this, wait till you take away their school lunches. A lot of the issues that we have in our country with children has to do with nutrition, like the quality of the food that we have, all of the carcinogens that are in this processed food. When you think about all of the things that are being injected into the cows and the chickens and all of this stuff, we don't ever talk about that stuff because you know what? That's the money. Those are the checks. And if you want to find the corruption, you got to follow the money. When we sit here and scapegoat vaccinations, you know why? It's a trigger word because of COVID. During COVID, that was something that really polarized America. And it was a lot of misinformation that was giving out because we made everything about political parties instead of centering the health of the American people, mainly done by the GOP and the right wingers. So this is just them following up on all of the stuff that they are playing on people's pain. There are parents out there who have children that are struggling with autism or neurodivergence. And instead of trying to find real solutions, you are sitting up here having these conversations publicly because when you say vaccination, it triggers a group of people. And the people who suffer the most are the children who are malnourished and whose needs are not being met. And it's always been that way since the times they were in factories grinding meat and losing their fingers.
Yeah, imagine having people in these positions of power with actual intellectual curiosity and empathy. That would be such an amazing change. We should try that at some point as a nation, maybe in a few decades, if there's anything left. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.